Okay, everyone, I think we're ready to get started here. If we can all, a few of you are still in line, that's fine. You can stay in line. This event is also being live streamed so that it's going to be seen by millions of people around the world. So the point with that is we are going to try to be, kind of follow a schedule a little bit. So that's why, for those of you in the back, you're welcome to keep moving through the line, but let's try to keep a little quiet back there. And those of you that are eating, continue to enjoy. But we're going to start with our program this evening. So just to get us thinking about 20 years at Followers of Jesus School, I was just trying to reflect on that, and I was telling some people that my nature is not I'm German, right? We don't celebrate anything. We barely celebrate birthdays, So this thing of doing a celebration to me was a little foreign, and I'm like, what's the point? What's the point in a celebration? And this afternoon, as I was thinking a little more about that, I was just feeling a little convicted, because the point of this is not necessarily a celebration for us. Maybe people want to try to find some seats here a little bit too, if the kids can not mill around too much, because I'm very easily distracted, right? Thank you. The point of this is to remember. And so as we go through this evening, I want us to really remember the good things that God has done here in this school from very meager beginnings. And we're still a meager school, right? But God is doing good things in each of our lives, I think, through all these years. So as I was thinking about this, I was thinking, what is the point? The point is to remember what God has done. And if we look through scriptures, we're told over and over and over and over again to remember, right? And why is that? So this evening I thought I would start, and this is for all FJS students, a small lesson in Greek philosophy. So who was it that said you never step into the same river twice? That's a pretty basic one. Plato? Wasn't Plato or Socrates before them, actually? Should I open this up to staff? Maybe see if the staff knows who that was? Harlan, do you know who that was? Have you ever heard that phrase before? You never step into the same river twice? How about Mr. Gockenauer? Does Mr. Gockenauer knows who that was? He's too busy. All right. So anyway, there's a reason for me saying that. That was let me just make sure I get this pronounced right. It was a guy by the name of Heraclitus. Heraclitus said, you never step into the same river twice. And the reason he said that is because the next time you step into the river, it's a different river, and it's a different you. The river has moved. The water that was there is no longer there. You're an older person, so it's not the same river, and it's not the same you. So you could never step into the same river twice. Well, then after Heraclitus, there comes a guy by the name of Parmenides, right? And he said, you can never step into the same river once. Because by the time he believed that everything in life is always in motion. Everything is moving, right? And so by the time your foot hits the water, before the rest of your foot gets into the water, the river has already changed, right? You've already changed. Things are happening that quickly. And I was just thinking about that, right? About how our lives are and how fast-paced we live life, right? And so unless we take time to stop and think and remember, we're moving at this crazy pace through the life that we're in, that things go by and we don't even realize it. And we can't go back. We can't go back and step in. None of you can go back and spend the same year at school again. You can come back next year, but it's not the same year. It's going to be the next one. And so I think it's just thoughtful for us to take these moments to stop and think. Life is moving quickly. Let's stop. Let's think. Let's think about the good things that God has done for us. Let's take time to thank Him for those things. And so tonight, my job is just to be the MC of this event. And mostly what I want it to be is I want it to be an event where all of us have an opportunity to share. especially those of you that are students, have been students here. If you want to share memories, good things that have happened here. Staff, I welcome any of you. So there's a few people who have said they will, so I'll be calling on them. And then I would hope that there's other people too that want to just share a good memory, something that God has done here. And then the second half of this evening, we would want to just spend some time thanking God and thanking the staff who have tirelessly given to this school for many, many years. So right now what we're going to do, a couple people are going to lead some old favorite school songs. Some of them, I'm not sure if they're current, or I think they're more from back in the day a little bit. So Harlan and Marilyn and Sarah are going to be singing those songs. And then after that, we're going to have some time of sharing. If anyone has anything they'd like to share, just let me know, or I'll call you up. And then those of you that I've already asked before, you'll have the time to share then.
I have a strong feeling we should stand up. You can't sing school songs when you're sitting down. Can we do that? You can? Okay. Do we have our God is an awesome God up here, Jim? Okay, like this. Try this. When he rolls up his sleeves, he ain't just putting on the ritz. God is an awesome God. There is thunder in his footsteps and lightning in his fist. Our God is an awesome God. And the Lord wasn't joking when he kicked him out of Eden. It wasn't for no reason that he shed his blood. His return is very soon, and so you better be believing that our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Starless in the void of the night, our God is an awesome God. He's the key to the darkness that created the light. Our God is an awesome God. His judgment and wrath He poured out on Sodom. His mercy and grace He gave us on the cross. I hope that we have not too willingly forgotten that our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. Lord, I lift your name on high. I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way.
Amen. One more. Let's sing. It's slipped my mind here. Put it up and I'll remember. Yes, there. There is beyond. Our God, He's alive. There is beyond the azure blue a God concealed from human sight. He tinted skies with heavenly hue and framed the world with His great might. There is a God. He is alive. And we survive.
And we survive from the star God.
From the star God.
He is our God.
He is our God. Our God, there was a long, long time ago, a God whose voice the prophets heard. He is the God that we should know, who speaks from His inspired word. There is a God. He is alive.
And we survive from the star God.
From the star God, created man. He is our God, the great I am. Let's take that up one step. Secure is life from mortal mind. God holds the germ within His hand. Though man may search, they cannot find, for God alone does understand. There is a God. He is alive. And we survive.
And we survive from the star God.
From the star God, created man, He is our God, the great I am. Amen. You can take your seats.
We got a, all right, thank you. Just looking at a verse here. This is the problem with using your phone too. It just went blank. In Deuteronomy, Moses told the children of Israel so many times, remember, remember. Remember you were slaves and the Lord delivered you, right? And then you guys remember what happened when they crossed the Jordan. Now Joshua's in charge, right? What did they do when the waters were stopped up and they crossed the Jordan River? What did they take out of the center of the river? 12 stones. Why? Representing the tribes. Why? There you go. So the children would remember. They piled them up on a pile, and they said, well, when your children say, what's this pile of stones doing? We can remember, right? And so it's interesting here, right? You know, I'm looking around this group, and I see some children of FJS students, right? We have 4 children. My wife's an FJS graduate, right? So sometimes we pile up stones so that our children will remember, right? Things that happened in our lives, will be for our children, help our children remember too what God has done. So we're going to start out with some memories, some thoughts, what the school has done. And our first fearless person to share a few memories is Jaquan. All right. You can use this or this, whichever you like.
Hello?
It was set for me, not for you. There you go.
How y'all doing? Man, that's good. Y'all eating good, huh? But I have a memory of a time when I was in 6th grade, before I got left back again while I was here. I was going through a really tough time in my life at a very young age, in and out of shelters, with my mom. And it was tough, but coming here was a beauty, It changed me. It made me who I am today, And that year wasn't really a good year. Mr. Nisley was going through his heart problems, and I was going through my problems. And it was a scary year, But, I made it through, with the grace of God. In my mind, I always thought that, I was going to fail. I was going to, rise. But the number one thing I always was motivated by was faith. A lot of people don't really have faith in their heart. They have doubts, but I didn't. I always had it in me, because going through in and out of shelters and sleeping in cars and in and out of people's homes, it's not cool. When you going through a teenage life, when you take bad routes too, it's not cool either. But I knew God was always by my side. I knew God always told me, don't go that route. Listen to your mom. I always had signs in my ears like, get it together. But that's how I always appreciate coming here, because, as soon as I came out of the womb, I knew what a cross was, And when I came here, I became more connected with God, more spiritual. And, it's a lot. I've been through a lot throughout my teenage life, but I'm thankful for everything that I've been through. Because, it really made me who I am. It really, opened eyes for me to see a lot of things and a lot of doors that I want to do, a lot of things I want to do with myself, and just be a better person, never give up. I made it through. Anybody can go through a situation. They can make it, because I did it. I thought I wasn't, but I did it. When I was going through high school, and I was going through situations too, a lot of teachers always say, why you walk around, the school always with a smile on your face? I'm like, because I have faith. I believe in God. I always carry a smile on my face because that's just who I am. I'm a happy person. At the end of the day, I'm always laughing. I'm always emotional with my mom personally, but when it comes to living out here, I always have a smile on my face. I'm always happy. Because you just never know. God's going to bless you with anything. Don't give up. Have faith. A lot of people here, a lot of kids here graduated, and I'm happy for y'all. Hope y'all journey really go good for y'all. If y'all going through something, do not give up. Whatever y'all do, don't give up. Because that's what the devil want. That's not what God want. If I made it through my high school, anybody can make it through anything. I still graduated. I still graduated. It was points in my life where I wasn't. It was tough. I mean, when you stress over your moms, man, she going through so much, sacrifice herself just to put food on my plate, but she's really out there going through it in the cars, not resting. That's stressful for me, because I didn't have a father to raise me. My father was in my life. The real father was him. He gave me signs. He gave me clues to don't go there, go here. Listen to your moms, pray. And I listened to them signs, and I made it. I'm here today to tell y'all, if y'all going through anything, don't give up, because I didn't. I could have been. It's plenty of kids that could have been gave up in my situation. It's plenty of kids that's in my situation today. I'm not today, today and before, but they give up quick. They don't, I seen kids give up. They go to jail, they do drugs, crazy drugs, don't even focus on school. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I did a lot of bad things that I shouldn't have, but I make sure I got myself together and I made it through. That's what really counts to me. It made my mom proud. Before I graduated, I started crying on the way there because I'm like, yo, Mom, I did it. Like, I don't even know how I did it. You know, I don't even know how I even made it through it, but I had to put a smile on my mom's face. That would have made her so happy to see me graduate through that tough times. It would have made her so happy. And in my mind, I'm like, I can't fall out. You know, I can't have doubts. I can't have my mom saying, oh, we going through this situation now. My son not graduating. It's not a good feeling, you know. And I've been around kids that just don't care about life. They do crazy stuff. And I got involved in stuff like that, but the other ear always told me, go that way still. Don't, make sure you do what is right, and I did. And that's why I'm thankful for this school, because when I went to this school, because I was a little bad thing in St. Rita's, that's how I had to come over here. But, you know, it'd be like that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, when you young, you very naive, you know, so, but when I came over here, it was different. It was different songs that I never really heard of, you know, but I enjoyed it. After a while, you know, I started raising my hands like, yo, I want number 30, let's play that song. But I just got so used to it. But that's just the spiritual in God, you know what I'm saying? And God, as soon as I came out of the womb, I knew what a cross was. It's like God put me on this earth to go through this resurrection and this pain and everything, just to tell y'all that I made it through. I made it through all of this. I made it through all of it, you know? And I'm young. I'm about to be 21. Oh, man, time is flying. I remember just being 14, but, you know, time be flying. It's all right. You know, that's life. We ain't going to be on earth forever. But while we here, though, we can make it right, because I did it, and I know y'all can do it. I know probably somebody in here today is going through something, but listen, man. When I was out there with just me and my mom, God was the only person that was there. Friends switched up on me. People switched up on her. You know, my mom is always a humble, sweet person. She would make sure she would put food on your plate if you're starving. And some people, when it's time for that help, they ran this way. But God never did. God never left me or left my mom. You know, it's just, I think about all of this, I'm like, wow, you know, I made it this far. But I'm just thankful. I'm glad I'm here to tell y'all that I did it. And I know y'all can do whatever y'all going through. Keep that faith in your heart, because that's what really matters the most. You know, God used that power He wants you to feel like we need Him. And sometimes you want to hold that, nah, I can't, you know, I'm stressed, but you just got to let it go. Give it to God, man, because if you don't give it to Him, He gonna have you stuck there, because He wants you to give it to Him. He wants you to give it to Him. It's just, that's how God works, man. That's our Father. And I'm just happy to tell y'all, you know, let's do the right thing, man. You know, I'm a little nervous, but not really. I just didn't really know what to say. No, but you know, when you go through so much in your life, it's like, what is there to really write down? You know, you already got it memorized in your head. You just got to really tell it, you know, so. Yeah, man, I thank y'all for real for having me, you know, telling my story to y'all, just to tell y'all, what it is y'all going through, y'all can make it, because I did it. It was hard, it was tough. I thought I wasn't, but I make sure I had to put a smile on my mom's face. You know, that's what really matters to me. And God, He's the only one I've been on my side through my tough times. And, you know, I thank Mom, I thank Mr. Nisley, I thank everybody here. I see y'all eating good. You know, I want to eat too, but I gained a little weight, you know what I'm saying? So I don't want to eat too much, but, yeah, but I'm done.
Imagine if he wasn't nervous, right? Right? How about that? How about that? You know, I just wanted to say one thing, though, that, you know, I don't know you guys well. I've seen you at church in the last couple of years a little bit. But I just wanted to say one thing that I just really appreciate. I don't know a lot of mothers and sons that have a better relationship than what I see you guys do. And that's really beautiful. I see from what you're saying, you go through a lot of tough times. And for you to stick together as a family, and I've seen you when you come to church, you know, the way that, the relationship that I see that you guys have that's special. So always hang on to that.
We might get on each other's nerves, but that's still mom's though.
Well, that's all right. If she don't get on your nerves, then she ain't doing something right. That's right. That's right. All right. Jaquan mentioned something there, and Mr. Nisley had said he'd like to share about that anyway, and so I thought now is the perfect time. So Mr. Nisley is going to come and share an experience that he had, and I'm sure he remembers on a regular basis. I'm sure his family remembers this on a regular basis, but a lot of us, I forget it sometimes, what amazing thing that the Lord did for Mr. Nisley. So go ahead.
Well, when I was asked if I would share something from the early years, my initial response was, you know, I remember something that was really life-changing for me as a teacher. Is it okay if I fast forward to that time? And he said, sure, whatever you want to share. Nonetheless, I did have a few memories that I thought I should maybe mention of early years before I go to that story. Our first year, we started on a very shoestring budget. We were the second floor of the YMCA, and this is going to be hard for this generation to wrap their mind around. But we didn't have a single phone in that entire room. Certainly no cell phones, not even a landline, certainly no high-speed internet, no connections, period. If we wanted to make a phone call, we needed to take a flight of stairs down to a public payphone. That was the only way that we could communicate via phone. That was 20 years ago. Today we need to collect cell phones from the students. It would be interesting to know what the maximum number of phones are on some days in this building. If you count the students who have deposited their phones, or they're still in their backpack and should have been deposited. The staff members that have cell phones on them, and then I think we have 2 phone lines in, and we have high-speed internet. But that first year, we had none of those interruptions. It was just us together in that room. We started with 7 students. I'm so glad Lisa Marie is here, and Valerie. Are you the only first-year students here tonight? Yeah, so good to have you here. So we started with 7 students at the beginning of the year, had 17 by the end of the year. We decided to count the number of countries represented, and by the way, out of those 17 students, there were a number of siblings there, so this is not like from 17 different homes. I don't know, it would have been more like maybe from 12, 13, 14 different homes, because a number of those had a number of siblings. But out of those 17 students, we had 11 countries represented. That was exciting to me. Coming from the plains of Kansas, that was really exciting to me. So that was the beginning, that was the first year. I came when I was 35 years old. I remember thinking, you know, I prepared these 35 years for God's call for me here. In 35 more years, I'm going to be 70, and at that point, I have nothing but memories to live on. What will those memories be? It's in this block of time that my retirement memories will be located. And I just wanted those to be memories that I could reflect back on without regrets, and that they were kingdom-building memories. And so I remember that. 3 years after first beginning to teach at FJS, God blessed me with a wife. There were a number of school families that the mothers were really wishing they could assist me in that pursuit, I remember. And I wish some of those could be here, because I would like to show them my lovely wife and our lovely children. And it's hard to imagine. Those years went so swiftly. But I remember that just before we got married, one of the school mothers, which was Valerie's mother, Sister Durrett, she was like a mom to me, and she said, Brother Dwight, you need to be looking for a house. And I thought, yeah, probably so, but I can't get one too quickly because I don't want to be paying rent before I actually there. And she said, well, you should start praying about it. I said, yeah. And it was either her idea or God gave the idea to me. I'm not sure which. But that I mentioned it to the student body and just asked them to pray with us about a place to live. And it was, I think it was maybe Janet who first touched base with me that in their apartment building, there's a place available. It's the same apartment building that Lisa's family lived in. And so God provided through the school for our first place to live. And it was a special thing because there were just a number of families within that building of 26 apartments that were students of the school. So I got to live right among my students for our first years of marriage. But I will now fast forward to what I was really going to share. And it's special for me to have Jaquan here tonight. He was one of the big compulsions in my heart was to be a father to the fatherless. And Jaquan was my first student to give a Father's Day card. And that's very special. But that year that he talked about was a very transforming year for me as a teacher. I'd always idealized that a teacher needs to be really patient with his students, and it seemed like as a whole God had given me that gift. But that year I had a heart attack, and when I returned back to school about 2 weeks after the heart attack, I discovered that ability for patience seemed to have evaporated. I just didn't have it anymore. And that really bothered me because I just felt like, how can I continue being a teacher if I don't have that? And I remember one day especially, I just felt like I really lost it in terms of not having patience like a follower of Jesus should have. And so I went home and I told my wife that. I said, I wonder if my days of teaching may be numbered. I wonder if I should maybe stop because I don't feel it's right for me to continue teaching if I don't have patience. Somehow I felt in my heart I should share that with my students the next morning. I'd never done that before. But the next morning I said, students, I don't know how yesterday was for you, but I felt like a failure. And before I could get much further, Jaquan was really waving his hand in the back. And he's got a good stature now, but already at 6th grade he was nearly my size, I think. He was an amazing, God gave him amazing stature. But he was waving in the back so vigorously that I thought I'd better not continue without giving him a chance to speak. And I'll never forget his words. He said, Mr. Knisley, please don't call yourself a failure. We are the failures. And he said, we deal with a lot of frustrations that aren't safe to dump on anyone except you, and so we dump them on you. But that's really not fair. And then he went on to say some of the things he just shared tonight about how that they were facing the challenge of going to shelter, and he wanted to protect his mother, and yet he felt like he was too small to be able to do that, and he broke into tears. And about then, another student who had a pretty tough facade suddenly was a different man. And he said, Jaquan, you can make it. We've been to a number of shelters. Oh, and by the way, before I go any further, tonight I talked with Jaquan and said, am I free to share this story? And he said, go for it. You can tell her anything you want to. So in case anybody's feeling a little uncomfortable about me sharing so thoroughly with this story, I felt I needed to clear that thoroughly before it would be right for me to do this. So I've covered those bases. This student who had a really tough exterior said, Jaquan, you can make it. Our family went through that and we made it. If we can make it, you can make it. And pretty soon there were some other students who were talking about the things that they're really facing in their family. We ended up with a group therapy there like I've often dreamed of having but never was able to accomplish. And it was like God took something that I didn't want and something that felt like such a huge weakness in my life. And he used it to open up that class and to open the door to the students actually providing counsel for each other to a level that has never in my teaching years ever happened before or since. And it ended up just being an amazing time. It's a favorite memory of all of my teaching years, really. And on the heels of that, God spoke to me and he said, you know, Dwight, don't worry about your weaknesses. I can actually do more with my weaknesses that you give to me than I can do with your strength. And since then, it's just freed me to be able to teach out of the strength of God rather than out of whatever meager resources or giftings that I might have. And so I look back on the heart attack as a gift from God, and I thank him for what he showed me about myself and about him, and that's really a favorite memory of mine.
Thank you, Mr. Knisley, for sharing that. That's why these things are important. You know, we need to remember. And it's just interesting how God uses so many different and often terrible things, right? You know, I was reflecting recently, you know, most of us know that verse in Jeremiah, right? Where God says, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, right? We all love that verse, right? But how many of you know where the people were that God was saying that to? Do you know where they were? They were in slavery. They had been captured by a foreign country against their will. You know, who knows, chain ganged across the country. They were in another country as slaves, and God said to them, I know the plans I have for you. We don't like that part. We like the parts about prosper, but sometimes it's those hard things that help make us prosper. And if we don't take times like this to stop and remember what it is. I have so many times, you know, Dwight really didn't even go into it, but he's only here by the grace of God in a couple minutes, you know, right? Which the couple minutes were the grace of God, right? And, I mean, I don't know what. I'm on the school board, right? I don't know what we would do, because when it comes to Mr. Knisley, we just put a check. He's in for next year, right? We know that his passion is here, and someday it might change, but hopefully let's see, you said 35 more years, 15 years yet to go, right? So we are, Dwight, thank you so much for your years, your compassion, your heart for the fatherless, and even for those who have fathers. My kids have been in his class as well. So just a couple more reflections on the early years. We're going to go to those first-year students, get a couple of thoughts from them, and we're going to start with Miss Valerie. All right.
Hello, so my name is Valerie, and yes, I was one of the students in year one. Does anybody know where the school was year one?
YMCA.
What's that? YMCA. Does anybody know where the school was year two? Across the street from where? Right. Yes, so the church on Jamaica and what is that, Hale? Should I be putting this down some more? Thank you. That's where we were, and like Mr. Dwight said, well, a little bit of back in the day, we had two Mr. Knisleys. So we called one Mr. Dwight. That's how he got his name. You guys may not know that. Because it was Mr. Dwight Knisley and Mr. Arlen Knisley. And so we couldn't call them both Mr. Knisley because they wouldn't know who it was. So that's how Mr. Dwight got his name. Or our favorite terminology to call our teachers were Mr. And usually Mr. Arlen Isley got that a lot. And Mr. Dwight talked about some of the privileges and that you guys have now that we didn't. So one of the other things that happened in a one-room classroom in year one was that you knew what was going on back in the day. So we used to have a policy where if you didn't listen to the teachers, there was a special punishment for you. So there was lots of activities that couldn't be hidden, right, Lisa? And also there was a lot of distraction. Lisa, who's going to be talking after me, was she distracted me from my work often. And I, unlike some of my comrades, wanted to graduate. I wanted to get out of school. And I went to public school all my life until FJS started. And so as soon as the vision for FJS came to be, my mom was like, that's it, you're going. And we were thankful for our tuition partners. I know some of them will be watching this video later, and so we're really thankful because I would not have gone to FJS without your support. So thank you for those of you who give to put young people like myself through school. And so, yeah, I wanted to get out of school, and so I focused to get my PACES done and didn't wait till the month of June to get them all done. I won't say any names. And so I focused and I set my goals weekly. And I divided the months of school with the amount of PACES I needed to get done. And my classmates, like Lisa, thought I needed distractions. And so their goals were often to try to get me in trouble. So, and they succeeded one time, I think, in those 3 years. And I don't know, I felt like there was a celebration once I got, like, it was Mr. Nisley, and people would tilt their chairs, and they would talk to me to get me to talk without permission. And one time I just was exasperated, and I responded, and I got my first demerit. And everybody cheered. So yes, so I can say for the record that I graduated with 1 demerit on my record, and 1 detention for those of you who want to know. But no, being at FJS really instilled in me teachers who were committed to loving God and following His voice and His calling. And I know for myself, having Mr. Arlen Nisley as the teacher and the principal, I was flipping through pictures trying to get ready for this event, and I found a note that he gave me and made me cry again for my graduation, because for those of you who haven't experienced it, to really have someone outside of your parents who really loves and cares and wants to see you successful, that is something that you get at FJS. And no matter what you disagree with and what you don't like, one thing you can agree with me on is that the teachers deeply care about you and the staff here and want the best for you. And so I'm thankful for that. And that's why my children go to FJS. And that's why I ask them about their goals and their PACES. And they look at me like I'm crazy, and I say, I know about scoring, and I know about the red and green PACE pen colors and what they mean. They're blessed to have conventional classes. I didn't have that opportunity, but I'm grateful for what FJS has done. I'm grateful to be here 20 years later to celebrate with you all, and thankful what God has done through the people in this church and through our community and through the faculty. Thank you.
I think maybe we got a rebuttal coming up here, right? I think maybe some records might need to be straightened out a little. I don't know. So anyway, Lisa, so glad you're here. Yeah.
See? Tiny. Hi, everybody. I want to start out by saying thank you. I'm humbled for the invitation. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here 20 years later. So started when I was 15. And for me, I can't say I'm a FJS graduate. I'm a FJS dropout. But I would have to say that when I started, God was working with me, and it didn't stop there. And I think that one of the biggest issues that I had was submission. I did not know how to submit, and I didn't understand. I used to always tell Mr. Nisley, Arlen, why do I have to listen to what you say? You're not my boss. I'm not gonna do what you tell me. And that was my struggle all along, and God was dealing with me for a very long time, and I remember that when I left really angry because I didn't want to submit. I didn't want to do what he said. I didn't want to sit down, or I didn't want to set my goals I didn't want to do 10 pages, and I had this whole other agenda, I guess, and it was hard, but God has a way of following you even when you kind of get off track. And for me, I think submission was hard because of the missing daddy syndrome in my life, and I didn't know how to submit to a man. I didn't know what that was. And I have to say that I'm blessed now that I finally learned my lesson. And I'm married now. I think I do a good job, right? I submit now, right? But no, but I really feel that when that time came in my life to make that decision to, accept the engagement and to get married and be committed, I knew. It's so funny because I said yes, of course. But I remember saying, wow, this is something that I struggled my whole life, and I couldn't get what Mr. Nicely was trying to teach me then. Well, what God was trying to teach me through Mr. Nicely. And I think back on what we used to do, and yes, we tried to get Valerie in trouble every day. I mean, that was the agenda. We wanted her in trouble. We wanted her to get demerits. And we accomplished it. But but I have a great deal of respect for the men and women that worked in FJS. It takes a great deal of patience, especially to come into this kind of community and deal with the different personalities and backgrounds and cultures, and to kind of have that patience and that desire to want to do it, because I think if it was me, I don't think I would have said, yes, Lord, send me, because we really gave these teachers a hard time. And yeah, it's funny, now, but I mean, sometimes I reflect now, and I remember the frustration on their faces, and now as an adult, I think, wow, they struggled. And you have to really love God to do something like that. I mean, I was just telling him, we would all coordinate because you were not supposed to. I don't know how it works now, but I was in the YMCA. And so I remember if you wanted the teacher's attention, you could raise your hand, you had to put a flag. Tony had the Puerto Rican flag, remember that? Tony had the Puerto Rican flag. And we really used to just, all of us, look at each other and put up the flags on purpose to, and the teacher would know to go here, there, and he would leave and we put it up again, or we would do the wave, remember that? One would stand up, and I mean, they just wanted to teach us and show us Jesus, and we were giving them such a hard time. And so I just want to say that whenever I think of FJS, my heart smiles. It's a warm feeling I get. I am so grateful that God started a work in me, and he is still working through me, and in me, actually. And I'm grateful for the opportunity for the sponsors that made it possible, the friendships that I made. I mean, Valerie, you hold this place in my heart, and Jen, and Angel, and Kevin, and Mr. Dwight, and so many people that I don't see all the time, but I think of you often. And I just want to say that your prayers have not gone in vain, because I know that your prayers have held me together, have brought me this far. And so even though I didn't accomplish to be a FJS graduate, I have to say that I am now in school finishing my bachelor's for registered nurse. And I chose nursing because I wanted to be in a place where I can give back of myself, just like my teachers did. I feel that if I have two working hands, although I broke my pinky, but I have two working hands, two working feet, a brain, and I have Jesus inside of me. I can't be selfish and greedy and keep that to myself. I need to be in a position to give back. So I chose nursing. It's my second career, and I'm almost done. I have 3 semesters to go. And keep going to the school board. Keep going, keep reaching. I mean, like I said, coming into this kind of community and dealing with so many personalities is not easy. But I know that the words that you share, encouragement, it stays within each person. And at night, when they're sleeping, they're thinking about that, those words that you share, or the prayers, and keep planting the seeds, and God will make it grow. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Valerie. Those are some good stories. And you know, I just thinking about that. Isn't it so cool how the Lord works, right? You know, sometimes we teach our kids a lesson, and they better get it, right? When God teaches us lessons, sometimes it's just amazing, because he gives us the opportunity to learn something, and sometimes we're stubborn and it takes a long time. But he keeps working on us and working on us and working on us. And sometimes then when we take these moments to remember and to think back, we realize, you know, I started learning that lesson a long, long time ago, right? And unless we take those times to stop, remember, and think, we don't even realize sometimes all the stuff that God is doing in our lives, right? I was thinking of when Lisa was talking there, I was thinking of a verse for the teachers. So this is from Nehemiah, right? And Nehemiah really worked himself to the bone for the people of Israel when they came back out of captivity. This is what he says in Nehemiah 5:19. He says, "Remember me with favor, my God, for all I have done for these people." I wonder how many times the teachers feel like that. You know? I hope God, the students don't seem to be caring too much right now, but remember me with favor. And I think that's a good prayer to pray. I would encourage the teachers to pray that prayer, because the Lord will remember you. The students, sometimes it'll be a while till they are grateful for what you've done, but the Lord will always remember you with favor if you're pouring out for Him. One other thing I wanted to mention, now we have one more testimony. I think we could go for a long time, and so my job is to try to control this here. There's a bunch of people that I spoke to that would be willing to talk, so if somebody wants to say something, I'm going to leave it now. There's one more person that I ask, and then after that, if somebody wants to say something, just let me know. Otherwise, we're going to move on to another part here. But before AJ comes up and talks, I just wanted to talk just a little bit about how amazing, right? So sometimes, as some of you know, we're in a little bit of a transition with the school right now. And being on the school board, you know, I found myself feeling, sometimes I feel like this little, like it's hard. It's hard to run a school here, right? It's hard to find people that'll come and work for below minimum wage. It's just hard. And sometimes I find myself I can find in me a little bitterness, like, where's the big church? Where's the help we need? Well, that's why we're called to remember. So I'm going to throw a few things out here that are just absolutely amazing, right? Since since Jim's been here, he's been compiling numbers on donors. So let's have somebody guess, since 2001, approximately, round numbers, how much do you think has been donated to keep, this is not tuition, right? We need tuition to survive. Outside of tuition, how much do you think has been donated since 2001 from people not here? There's over 400 people who have donated, people, businesses, etc., who have donated. This is not from 97 to 2001, from 2001 till now, not counting this year. So there you go. How much, somebody give me a guess of what you think's been donated to this school. Mr. Matt, who said that? 250? Anybody else? Back here? Yeah, you're on the board. 3 million? Depending how you figure, there's been, who said that? Since 2001, $1,075,000 have been donated to FJS, right? This is when, I wish I was Pentecostal. We got some Pentecostals in the house. Let's give God a thanks offering for that, right? There we go, right? It's just amazing. And it's just, you know, for most of us here, these are people I don't know, you don't know, but their support helped you, helped your children, it's helping my children come to this school. And I just was thinking about that, and I was like, why? And that, take that $1,075,000 plus add this last year, probably about $50,000 this last year. Plus we have people that have offered up to $25,000 toward renovations on the top floor when we begin that. Plus add in the first 4 years that we didn't track, right? Plus, now how about this? On a very conservative number, we underpay our staff by $150,000 a year. Very conservative. Jim has a master's. If he worked in the public school system, he'd be making, I don't know, with his experience, 120. I checked the budget, I don't think he's making that here, right? Dwight, with 20 years of experience, would be making a lot more money. Everybody would. So at a very conservative number, we're underpaying our staff by $150,000 a year. So for this table over here of students, right, on 20 years, how much of a gift in kind does that come out to? Is anybody paying attention over here? If I get the point. Remember, I get the point. Where's the teachers? God bless you all. Right? So, for you students, if we're underpaying our staff $150,000 a year, so we're going to call that a gift in kind, right? Because they're donating their time at a rate of $150,000 a year. School's been going on for 20 years. What's that number that has been given to the school as a gift in kind? That too complicated? $150,000 a year over 20 years. Who has a calculator? Who pulled their phone out? That's why we got to go back to no phones. Oh, there you go. $3 million, imagine that. So take the 1 million, maybe 1.2, if we add all the numbers together, plus at least 3 million in volunteer time, underpaid time. And the question really, this is the serious part. The question is why? Why do people do this? Why do people give $1 million to educate somebody else's kids? Why do people set aside really good careers to educate somebody else's kids when not just first-year students, when students now don't even appreciate it at the time, right? Why do people do this? And that's why moments like this are important, because it makes us remember. It makes us remember that the picture is so much bigger, right? The picture is so much bigger, and God has not called us to wonderful careers and making a lot of money. God has called us to train up our children, right? And so I know you can get a really good education in a public school. You can go there and you can learn a lot. But you're not going to learn about the Lord in the public school. And that's why we send our children here. We don't send, I'm on the school board too. We don't send, I think our children are getting a very good education, by the way. But we don't send our children here to get the very best education. We send our children here, as my wife said, we send our children here because we know that there are people that love them and care for them. And it is at their very heart's desire to represent Jesus to them. That's why we send our kids here. And that's why people are willing to work underpaid. That's why people are willing to send money here. And that's why, you know, again, as I said when I started this out, I'm not really a big thing into celebrations. But I was like, you know what, if nobody came, this was worth it for me because it's made me stop and reflect back on how amazing the Lord has been for 20 years. And that's just in this building. If we would start talking about what he's done outside of this building, what he's done in our lives outside of this building, that we won't get out of here. But there we go. That there, that's right. So anyway, AJ, we got one more testimony here, and then we're going to spend a little bit of time just thanking God for those people who have served here so much. Tireless. I shouldn't say tirelessly. That's really not a good phrase. They've served here tired, but they've served for so much time. We want to recognize them a little bit tonight too. So AJ.
All right. I got the text to talk, and at first I didn't really want to. And then, you know, I think about the school and everything that they've done for me. I think about outside, how there's like a picture of me. So I'm like, I have to talk. I'm literally the poster child of the school. So, no, but FJS has been my first and only school. I was one of the few 12-year graduates, so once I went to college, I didn't know about any other school. I made friends outside of school, and the question was always, what school do you go to? And I couldn't just give them a name. I had to give like a whole paragraph and a story with citations and all that. But when I tell them that it's 1st to 12th grade, it's like, what? Like, it always gives like a good talking point, like a good conversation starter. You know, when I tell them 1st to 12th and then I say there's only 50 kids in the whole school, they're like, really? And then, especially in college, like everyone was really interested about that. And at the time I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of embarrassed talking about my school and how small it is. But now that I'm older, you know, big school doesn't really mean much. I know people that went to school with thousands of kids and they didn't really learn anything, you know. So our school is small, but you know, it was helpful. Like, we actually learned a lot. It was kind of hard not to pay attention in class because if there was only like 10 people in class, you could see whoever's sleeping or whatever. So